The very essence of the mental game is this. The only reason an event matters is because we make it matter.
Welcome to the Mullins Farrier Podcast, where I will sit down and converse with the superstars, the overachievers, the masters of our craft. Each episode will be a deep dive into their personal philosophies, their habits, the tools they use, and the secrets to not only their success, but overcoming failure as well.
First, find somebody you can mimic, then find somebody you can stand, and then try to focus on one style until you master that style.
So if you say I can't do something, well, you're absolutely right. But if you say you're going to, you're absolutely right with that too.
People say that you shouldn't define yourself by your work. That is not true.
You know what Dave Farley does when he's, lucky enough to be at the World Equestrian Games? I'm watching other people work.
Yeah.
I don't think we do that enough.
This podcast is for all of you out there who share my passion for the job and the desire to always improve. These interviews will put you in touch with the inner workings of the role models we all want to emulate. So let's get to it.
There's only so many hours in a day, and it's a matter of what you do with them.
Hello, everyone. Today I'm speaking with Dr. Betsy Lordan, DVM, CJF, and now TE. I first met Betsy when I attended the AFA certification prep course at Heartland Horseshoeing School many years ago. She was prepping for her CF exams at the time. As with most students of the school, Chris Gregory anointed her with a nickname, and she has been known to many as Dr. Danger since. The origin of this nickname isn't truly known, as the story gets more elaborate and less flattering to Dr. Betsy each time Chris tells it. I believe that despite its questionable origins, it is fitting, as Dr. Betsy is a force to be reckoned with, and that any certification or goal she puts her mind to is eventually going to be hers. Betsy grew up in Gloucester, Massachusetts, and her career path has in no way been a direct one. She started out her academic life acquiring a degree in international relations, but after working on various horse farms and ranches, Betsy discovered that her true love was of shoeing and veterinary medicine. Her passion for podiatry eventually took her to an internship at the Equine Lameness and Podiatry Center, a subset of Scone Equine Hospital, in the Hunter Valley region of Australia. Then, after moving back to the U.S., she has worked as an associate for SRH Veterinary Services for several years, still traveling and working for other podiatry clinics throughout the U.S., including in West Palm Beach, Florida, and Lexington, Kentucky. In amongst all this, she still found time to prepare for and complete her Certified Journeyman Farrier certification and, more recently, her Therapeutic Endorsement with the American Farriers Association. Dr. Betsy is the first female vet to achieve her CJF. We met up again this past February during the blacksmithing course at Heartland Horseshoeing School while Betsy was preparing for her therapeutic endorsement, where she agreed to sit down and share some of her stories with us. I hope you enjoy the conversation with Dr. Danger as much as I did. Welcome, everyone. I'm sitting here today with Dr. Betsy Lordan, DVM and CJF, the first woman to achieve both accreditations. And she's making faces because she's very humble. We're sitting here at Heartland Horseshoeing School. You will hear tinging going on in the background and some trucks driving by on the highway beside us, but hopefully most of that will be fairly quiet and won't interfere with the conversation. So, welcome, Betsy.
Hi.
So, you started as a vet and then got yourself into shoeing somehow.
Not exactly. I came into the profession a little later in life. So originally got my degree in something completely different and then was really debating between going to shoeing school or going to vet school, and then ended up deciding to go to vet school and decided, I really want to learn how to shoe a horse anyway, and found some guys to tag along with, and I just got really into it.
I met you at Heartland. You were doing your CF run that time, right?
Yeah.
So how did you go from just following some guys around and that side of things to let's go get my accreditations?
It was funny. The guys I was working for out in Colorado, Brian Eidelman, he's a DVM CJF too. they were really into the accreditation status, and it just became like a goal of mine that I wanted to do that as well. Unfortunately, with the vet program, I couldn't really take the time off to go to shoeing school. So I just worked for anybody and everybody, during that time to try to improve my skills.
Okay.
Following vet school, I did a hospital internship in New Hampshire and then ended up doing a podiatry internship down in Australia for 1.5 years. And it was kind of the same thing. I just shadowed different guys, worked with different guys, and then, made my way to Heartland to work on my CF.
Okay. And then I met you again. It was that same year, right? Or the next year at the blacksmithing course.
Yeah.
And at that point, you'd passed your CF, and then you were going for your CJF.
Wow, I don't know if I moved along quite that quickly. I think I'd only passed part of the CF at that point, but I don't know. It's kind of one of those things, once you get wrapped up in it, it's not about doing something, it's about doing something as well as you can.
Right.
And so you're just kind of on to the next step.
Now you're pursuing your therapeutic endorsement.
Yes.
In order to do all of the practice required for that, how do you work that into your routine? Like, I know you have a fairly busy life with just your career, like the vet side of things.
Yeah, it's interesting. So this whole past year, we've been running kind of a skeleton crew. Like we're normally a 3-doctor practice, and it's just been my boss and I doing the on-call 24/7, just splitting it. So the way I've worked it is I never know what I'm going to get done at the end of the day. So usually I will get up, go to the shop for a couple hours before I go to work and try to get it done there. And then, I got some shop space close to my office, so I can be there and be on call and still be being productive, while I'm waiting for the phone to ring.
Cool. So what time would you be getting up to put in a couple hours before work?
I try not to get up before 5:30, and then, get there at 6 and then forge. And then the shop's only really 5 minutes from the office. So if I can get there at 6, I can get a good couple hours in before I get to work.
That's great. And then when you're on call,
I can pretty much just go set up for the day. It's a lot more convenient having shop space now because I can just shut off the forge and go to a call versus, when I was practicing for my CJF, I'd have to pack up my whole truck and then go to a call. So it's nothing more annoying than getting unpacked and then having to go treat a colic somewhere.
Right. No kidding. Mid-practice.
Exactly.
So how did you get into horses in the first place?
Oh, I totally that little girl who watched way too much Black Beauty and My Little Ponies.
You don't come from a family of horse
No.
people?
My dad's a lawyer and my mom, taught special ed. We are not horse people at all. We hit that learning curve about as hard as anybody. My little sister and I were just totally horse crazy. And, interestingly enough, she was the one who was supposed to go to veterinary school. She has a degree in chemistry, and I was off to do some international thing, and then we ended up switching places, and now she lives overseas and I am doing this. So
okay. Yep.
But I've always been kind of the tomboy of the family.
Right. Okay. And then did you show horses? Did you compete? Like, how did you get into the actual horse side?
Yeah, I mean, we leased some horses that were probably not very safe to ride, so I learned to stay in the middle of them pretty quick.
Yeah.
I did 4-H, and then when I was in high school, I did dressage team, and I did a little more competitive riding, but it just wasn't really my scene, I guess. After I finished college, I got offered a job out in Montana, and I just went out there and basically just chased cows around and started colts and just had a good time for about 5 years. And
okay.
While I was out there, I decided I want to go to vet school, and I went back to school to take all the science prerequisites.
Okay.
So I worked for a vet part-time out there and did the science prereqs.
Okay. In your conversation earlier tonight, you said something about teching for somebody. That was in Montana?
So yeah, I worked for a couple different vets while I was out there and just worked for them part-time while I was going to school part-time. And I don't know, I worked in daycare too, Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do,
For sure.
And then I started learning a little about trimming then, but wasn't a good idea. I did not have enough supervision. So, no, but it was good. I always found it really fascinating and just asking our farrier way too many questions. I think he thought I was playing a trick on him.
No, I think we all know those people that eventually are going to pursue that career just by how keen they are about it.
And then I got lucky enough to get into veterinary school and headed down to Colorado, and I spent 4 years down there just working with a bunch of guys. And basically I was doing my electives, my vet electives. I was working with a farrier who was also a vet. So.
Okay. And then what was your experience like in Australia? What prompted you to head out there?
Kind of came up very suddenly. Actually, it was the first time I attempted my CF. I had been prepping for it during my intern year at New England Equine in New Hampshire. And it was really funny because one of the examiners was Australian and we were talking and he was like, oh yeah, you should really think about some overseas opportunities. Then a friend of mine in Kentucky just happened to text me while I was holding a horse for my friend who was starting his exam. And he says, hey, I've got something for you if you're willing to move to Australia.
Oh, that's all it takes.
So I'm holding this horse for my friend who's trying to take his exam. Horse was standing good. It's fine. So then I'm like sending my resume to this guy in Australia. And before I knew it, the deal was done.
Really?
Yeah. So I went down there. I was there for a year and a half. And it was really interesting at first. So I learned a lot of new words my first day trimming mares.
Yep, they definitely use some probably taboo words.
Oh, yeah. Well, unfortunately, they're slightly becoming part of my vocabulary, but it's all good, right? No, it was great. And I made really good friends with this awesome farrier, Craig Jones, up at University of Queensland. And he was so helpful. He helped me so much. Just, I'd go up there during my time off. It was probably about 10 hours away, I want to say, from where I was living. Yeah, I just rock on up there and he kind of fit me in with their farrier class, have me make shoes or, help me make tools because I was breaking a lot of tools at that point. Yeah, while I was there, they conned me into being the secretary of the Farriers organization for New South Wales. So,
oh, wow.
Helped organize a big comp down there. And it was a lot of fun. I got really involved with the Farriers organization there. Just a great bunch of guys, super nice. And we had a really good time.
Cool. So did you compete yourself?
Yeah.
At all? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, I did. I think I won the novice high point my first competition. I think it was rigged, but that's all right. It was still a lot of fun. It was great. It's one of those things. It's like competing or anything else you do. You're asking yourself to rise to the next level, and you're just meeting a lot of people who are helping you with things along the way, and you're just exposing yourself to a lot of constructive criticism, and it's just a really supportive group of people. And so I really liked that. Except I think Dave Duckett came by, he judged our comp in Scone, he looked at my foot and was, what did you do to that?
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, we brought him down, so that was kind of fun.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so no, it was good. It was a great learning experience. I learned a lot.
Now, are there some noticeable differences between shoeing in Australia versus here?
Not really. I mean, a lot of the guys I worked for are pretty standard, fairly close to AFA style stuff that I saw. A lot of those guys go over to Europe and do, their dips over there and stuff like that.
Okay.
I think they'd like to align themselves a little more with the European system. Mm-hmm. And they have an apprenticeship program there too. So it's not like America where you can just go out and start shoeing horses. I mean, you can, but they set it up as a trade school thing where you do I want to say it's a 2-year apprenticeship. It might even be 4 years, but they have an apprenticeship system as well.
Okay, cool. So you don't have to follow it, but it's offered.
You can just do the accreditation and take the test, similar to an AFA style thing.
Okay.
No, but I had a great time down there. It was a lot of fun.
And then what brought you back to North America?
My visa ran out. It was only a 1.5 year long position, so I came back and I joined a practice back in the Northeast that was close to my family. I felt like my foraging skills were really lacking, and I felt like just the whole picture was really lacking, and that I needed to put a lot of things together. And so I came out. I had actually met Chris. He was teaching a class in Australia. That's where I met him and Kelly, and they said that they would work with my schedule.
Cool.
And I'd heard really good things about the school, so I came out and just had a great experience, learned a lot, just kind of kept coming back for short courses and short things. And, it really kind of set me on the path to really improving my skill set.
So before I had met you doing your certification, you had been here before.
No, that was the first time.
That was the first time? Okay.
Yeah.
And then you came down a couple times during the actual courses that were running, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I forgot to mention too, the practice I was working for in Australia was specifically podiatry based. We did lameness and podiatry. What I was talking about before is a lot of mare trimming and competition stuff and things like that. Scone Equine Hospital is based in Scone, Australia, which is basically the thoroughbred capital of Australia. And it's one of 3 of the largest thoroughbred breeding centers in the world.
Okay.
So it's huge for racehorse breeding. So we're dealing with a very similar population to Lexington, Kentucky in terms of like laminitic broodmares, foot problems, not as much of the performance animals. We saw performance horses, but not as much like racehorse stuff, but a lot of your young stock issues, foals, mares, studs, lots of feet.
Yeah, right.
Lots of feet with big problems. And the guy I was working for down there, he did a lot of more like Redden style mechanics. So it was a really different picture for me from what I was used to. And it was a really big eye opener for me. And just to see what that kind of stuff can do.
Right. Especially in laminated cases.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was something that coming from a really strong AFA background, I was initially like a little bit in shock. And then all of a sudden, you really just have to keep your mind open to everything because you just shoot yourself in the foot if you're just like, what is that? You really have to just embrace everything out there because there's a lot of things that work.
Yeah, for sure. I remember even you and I had a couple conversations and you would describe the stuff you were using and I was like, why would you use aluminum?
You cannot do that. Yeah. It's not a thing.
Yeah. And then once I opened my eyes a little bit more, I was able to.
And I'm like, here, Brian, watch this. I'm going to screw a block of wood onto this horse's foot. It's going to work great.
Yep, you did praise the clog.
Yeah, still praising the clog.
Yeah.
But it's all about like what you're doing and using the tools that you're comfortable with to make it happen. And there's so many things available now that you just have to find what works for you. And being around all of these people in all these different countries, I learned that a lot of things work. Yeah. So you have to kind of take it back to your basic mechanics. Like, oh, where do I want to put the brake over on this foot? How much can I achieve with this style shoe? Can I nail this up? Can I glue this up? What's going to be the best for this foot? And the more you know and the more materials you're comfortable using, your opportunities are endless.
Right. Yeah, you've got a bigger box of crayons to choose from.
Or if you run out of something, then you can improvise.
Yeah, that's right.
Somebody didn't pack this truck right. Oh, shoot, it was me.
Well, and it must be handy, too, the fact that you are handy. And I saw some of the shoes that you've made and used. That must actually come into play a lot.
It does. Yeah, it definitely does. It's one of those things, it's always a work in progress. Like, you're always striving to make better shoes, but it makes you think so much more about your fit. It makes you think so much more about, I'm not just taking this out of the box and nailing it on. Mm-hmm. You're like, how can I make this better?
Right.
And when you see really good work, it gives you something else that you want to reach for.
For sure. Mm-hmm. And hanging out with the folks here at Heartland sure shows you the levels you can get to. Oh, yeah,
that was easy. Watch me go do this. Yeah. Sure, I'm going to just whip that right out. It's no problem.
Struggle bus after you see one of their demos.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, wait, how did I do that again? No.
Now, what does your practice look like at home? What sort of things are you dealing with now?
I mean, right now I'm about 50-50. As I said, like, it's really a general practice that I've started to introduce a little more podiatry into. We cover pretty much any equine, some mixed farm animal emergencies and routine care. And then we do a fair bit of lameness. And then I'm pulling in kind of these podiatry cases, taking referrals from other farriers, from other veterinarians. But I do about 50-50 right now.
Okay. And I remember asking you this when you first told me that you were a vet and that you were, then I see that you were going for your CF at the time. Do you get any blowback from other farriers? Like, how does that work in your practice?
Not typically. No matter what you do, there's always going to be somebody who's going to be offended.
Yeah.
But my mindset is very much like, I don't want to take people's work. That's not my goal. My goal is to work on the more advanced cases. I have some clients of regular work that I do on the side, but I'm too busy with the rest of the stuff I do to really keep a full book of horses. Well, so it's not really an issue, I guess. And, if I come in on a case as a veterinarian, generally I try to work with the person working with the horse. And I've been around long enough that most of the guys know me.
Yeah.
So it's usually a pretty good thing. Like, I'll let her deal with it for a while. Some of the guys don't want to mess with glue-ons. But then there are other guys who really want to do it and want to do more of it. And I try to just facilitate that.
Right.
So that tends to be my approach, is to try to do what people are comfortable with. Because you're there to be part of a system. You're not there to take over.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time when there's a real serious case, a lot of guys are like, yeah, go for it.
They're probably pretty happy to hand them over.
Exactly. So I really haven't had a problem, and I feel like I've got a good relationship with, just about everybody I work with.
Okay. I'm sure at some point you've run into it where you see somebody where their skill level isn't quite up to what needs to happen for the horse to feel better.
And that's a really hard line to toe.
Yeah.
It really is. And the other thing is, too, is you don't want to throw anybody under the bus.
Exactly.
I mean, I try to be so careful with clients. They're like, oh, he did this wrong. And you're like, no. Like, he didn't do this wrong. It's just, that's just a different approach than what I use. And I try to use really neutral language, But I do feel like when I'm communicating with a farrier, especially over something like that, I take the client out of the equation.
Yeah.
I call them directly all the
Instead
time.
of playing telephone.
No, I don't let that happen. I try to always make sure I call them directly so that we're all on the same page and they know what I've said to them, and try to eliminate at least the client, as the issue. And I try to give horses back. I do. Mm-hmm. Unless there's a serious case that really does need long-term attention. But that's another one. Most of the time, guys don't care that much. Well, or at least that's been my experience thus far. Yeah, it is hard when you run into a case where you know it needs something extra and you're just not getting it.
Right.
You're trying to toe that line of being professional and not throwing somebody under the bus and still trying to get that horse what it needs. But I think we all need to be realistic at the end of the day, is that the horse is your top priority. Mm-hmm. And everyone needs to rise to the occasion. Yeah. And somebody else told me that, and I couldn't agree with it more. Like, the horse has to be put first. Mm-hmm.
Yes, for sure. One of the arguments that I've heard in the past is that vets who are podiatrists often don't have the skill set that you're working from, and some of the stuff that you see applied might not be to the same standards that you're applying it.
And that's so hard because there's a lot of farriers running around that don't have any credentials.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can name several top-notch podiatrists working on multi-million-dollar horses, and they're good.
Yeah.
And they don't have a CF or a CJF attached to their name. After a while, this world becomes so small that your name is your resume.
Right.
you know?
For sure.
It's tough because I really respect the people that have taken the extra step to go get the credentials.
Right.
And I think other people respect it as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's the same in the farrier industry, is that you hear so many guys say, oh, I don't need those letters after my name, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I do great work. And so it's tough because if you don't accept the standard, you can't expect everybody else to live up to it, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It is completely the big debate in the industry. Is accreditation a thing? Is it necessary?
For sure. Yeah, it's been a topic I've heard a lot lately.
Yeah.
And where I was kind of heading with that question is that you're kind of in this unique space where you said you have a few that you work on your own. You also have the ability to keep honing your skills on just even regular shoeing, right?
Well, that's it. And that's why I like to keep some horses like that, is because I'm constantly trying to improve my regular shoeing, because we all know the more you practice the basics, the better you are at everything else. So,
right. Yeah.
I mean, I find big holes in my work all the time where I'm like, wow, I really need to work on that. And so having horses that I can just work on, and some of them are backyard horses, some of them are nicer horses, it's just having horses to work on in my free time, because that's what you do on your day off if you're me.
Right.
Because that's how we fit all that time in. That's how you get better. Like when I was working at my CJF, I used to just go up to this big Morgan barn, and I would just stay there all day shoeing horses for absolutely nothing, because this man had a barn full of horses and did not care.
Right.
He was a farrier too. And he was basically like, well, if whatever. He was totally happy for me to just go and shoe all the horses for him.
That's awesome.
But it was great. And, and I could just go set up in the corner of the barn and just build shoes all day and put them on horses.
4 feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the best practice.
Yeah. So that was great. But yeah, I just basically went up there and he'd just tell me who needed to be done, and he'd just line them up and I'd keep after it.
Plain stamps for everybody.
That was it. You know, that's a reset. Oh yeah. And then I come back like 10, 12 weeks later and be like, well, nobody did anything since I was here last. Because they weren't really like on a schedule for me. This is like my day off shoeing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
We were talking about how I fit it in. Initially, a lot of it was just getting under as many horses as I could. And like I said, this guy was great for me because he would just line them up for me and I could just go and just work and think and focus. And half the time I'd be alone in the barn all day building shoes. So it was great.
Cool. Now, who would be some of your mentors that you would approach if you did run into, say, a shoeing question or something like that?
Well, like for podiatry stuff, definitely Brent Barrett down in Florida. He's awesome. Brian Fraley, any of the guys from Rune Riddle, like Raul, like they're all awesome podiatry resources. Chris is amazing. I haven't talked to him as much about pathologic cases, but for just good, solid horseshoeing, Chris, this guy, Craig Jones from the University of Queensland, Link Bowman down in Australia, just a really good group of guys. Yeah, the other one I didn't mention is a mentor of mine down in Australia, Luke Wells-Smith. He's awesome. Another podiatry guy. You know, there's just a ton of people. Timmy Bulduck up in New Hampshire. Like I said, I've just bounced around from everybody.
Kidding.
I've picked so many brains. It's been great. I mean, I probably couldn't name all of the people that have really contributed to teaching me something. And
Right.
I know I'm forgetting a bunch of people, and I'm sorry. I think that's what's been really cool about my career is because I didn't just step out of veterinary school, go to shoeing school, and then was like, now I'm a podiatrist.
Right.
I spent my time learning from farriers. You know, it's funny. One of the first farriers I ever rode with, I got in his truck, and he said to me, just so you know, I don't like vets. First thing he said to me. I turned
That's
around and
a good
looked at him
start.
and I said, "Where are you going to vet school?" This is a guy down in Colorado. He said, "Well, fair enough. I'm just going to vet school so I can tell vets to piss off." And so like the whole day we rode around and I asked him way too many questions. And then he says, "You can come back anytime you like."
Really? Yeah.
And then I was like, "Great, I'll be back Saturday or something."
Yeah.
You start to learn a lot about the animosity between the two communities, and you start to learn how to fit into that. And you start to realize why people feel the way they do and why there's this missing level of communication. And I think, you know, when you're really learning from somebody, it doesn't matter if you're a vet. It doesn't matter if you're anything. When you're trying to learn a skill from somebody, you are the student.
Right.
And I've been the student to so many of these guys. You really learn to listen. Some of them might say I don't listen so well. But you're trying. But you're always trying.
Yeah.
Just being in that environment where you're constantly learning from other people, like you can contribute a lot as a vet, but you really get a much better team approach out of it.
Right.
You know, we talk about, you do these little role reversal clinics for a day where the farrier and the vet work together and they kind of switch roles or whatever. Well, I feel like most of my farrier career has been working for other people.
Right.
Trust me, those boys down in Australia will never let me forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've taken more nonsense for being a vet.
Yeah, I bet. What are some things you think would help sort of combat that animosity?
You know, I think Travis Burns and Scott Pleasant have a great model and they do great talks about that communication between people. But a lot of the farrier education, I think, sometimes isn't really based on more modern terminology, which, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like if we kind of taught both fields from a similar perspective.
Oh, for sure.
I think sometimes, like, I will meet farriers that know all these terms that I only know them because I've studied for these tests.
I remember you actually sticking up your hand a few times and asking, would this be this term?
Yeah.
Like, that came up a lot, actually.
Yeah. So I think if, you know, the terminology was taught similarly, because I know so many farriers who are very, very smart people, very well read, but the terminology is just different from what's taught in the veterinary profession. So when you come to a vet and use some term they've never heard of, they're going to look at you like you have three heads. Most of the time, we're just so stressed out trying to figure out what we need to do, you know, running differentials over in our heads. And sometimes it's hard for us to really communicate, you know, as well as we should, because we're stuck in no man's land trying to make decisions and going through all the possible differentials when we're looking at a case.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think teaching similar terminology would really help.
Now, are there some textbooks that you would recommend or some reading that you would recommend for farriers that would help with that?
I really like the equine podiatry book from Mansman and, I'm forgetting her name. I think any of the modern veterinary texts are good, but it would be great if some of the curriculum textbooks for horseshoeing schools used similar terminology to the veterinary textbooks.
Right.
And even just talking about processes, we talk about spavin this, spavin that, but really referring to it as osteoarthritis and talking about the process of osteoarthritis rather than talking about it like it's its own thing. It's like you have these processes going on in different joints.
Right.
But it's all arthritis.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about those things in that sort of a fashion. For veterinarians, it's tough. And I think we all know this. It's like a lot of it's just learning to read a foot and not an x-ray.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't really trim feet, it's kind of no man's land.
Right. There are times where it looks like there's more that a farrier could take. And I've witnessed that where you're asked to take more than you probably should.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just because of the limitations of the x-ray, right?
Maybe not. Like sometimes you have migrating blood vessels and things like that, you're not seeing that on the x-ray.
Exactly,
but
yeah.
it may or may not hurt if you cut into them, but it sure looks scary,
Yeah, to the client, it might not look the greatest.
Exactly. I'm like, oh, just cauterize that. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard as a veterinarian, I think, because people look to us to have the answers.
Yeah.
So I think that puts, an added level. People talk about vets being arrogant. People talk about vets not listening or whatever. You have to remember that you're supposed to be the person who's driving the whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're meeting with a new person or a new farrier, sometimes I think it's worth it to, maybe take the conversation elsewhere away from the client.
Yeah.
And really sit down and talk about what people know and try to get a sense for each other's ability to work together. I think that's the problem is we have so many talented farriers and they come in guns blazing like, I want to do this. This is what I learned. This is great. And the vet's got this completely different idea based on the x-ray of the textbook.
Mm-hmm.
And is trying to figure out how to have that conversation to make those two things work together.
Right.
I think that really comes down to individuals, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, every one of those matchups is going to be a unique and different situation. And
I mean, we deal with it with our clients all the time. They like us for specific reasons and they don't like so-and-so for other reasons. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be a lot about personalities. But I think communication and listening and all those touchy feel good things, just take a minute to listen to what somebody's saying before you start spewing your own opinion.
Right. Are there certain things that now that you have both perspectives that you've heard a farrier say to you or say a vet say to a farrier that you would think, I actually would recommend that you maybe didn't do that it would be a pet peeve to you? Say a farrier crossing the boundary into vet territory. Are there certain things that we might not be aware of?
It's when farriers make diagnoses. That is crossing the line.
Yeah.
If I have somebody telling me what's wrong with the foot or what's wrong with the horse, and they don't really understand anything about proper diagnostics, like they're not following the process. They're like, oh, it's this.
Right.
It's so hard because there's so many unknowns in medicine. You really have to have a process. And it's the same with shoeing. To be fair, I've gone to vet conferences and I was sitting there at a table with a few veterinarians and nobody knew that I was a shoer. And like, it was hilarious because this guy's just going, I just can't get him to trim this foot this way. And, you need to do this and you need to do that. And I was like, you mean leave flare out the side like that? And he was like, well, what's flare?
Right. Yeah.
And it was hilarious. So I was asking him about trimming the foot, like what he was talking about. And he basically wanted to like leave all this flare hanging off the side. And it was just funny listening to him talk. I just can't get him to do this. And you're like, well, that's not really the way the horse's foot's actually shaped. Like, that's just extra.
Yeah.
That's just bonus foot. Like, leaving it there isn't going to help you.
No, it might hinder you even.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was interesting because he was quite accomplished. I mean, I've run in that situation a few times, and then they'll be like, oh, I can do glue-ons. And I'm like, oh, God. I had another one say to me, well, I didn't trim the foot that day. And I was like, oh, probably a better idea that you didn't. Well, maybe you should have called somebody else to do that. People taking creative license outside of their realm.
Yeah.
And I think it goes both ways,
yep.
if that makes sense.
No, for sure.
Yeah. It's like me going and doing a colic surgery. It's just not a good idea. I can stand there and pass the surgeon instruments and help hold things out of the way, but I shouldn't be the person doing it.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a surgeon.
Makes sense.
It's your scope of practice. That's what it is. So we talk about people in various medical fields. What is your scope of practice? Are you authorized to put IVs in? You need to understand your scope.
Right.
And stay within it.
And I guess the unique thing about dealing with farriers, because we don't have a regulating body, our scope is whatever we consider it to be.
This is true. Yeah. But I mean, legally, there's still regulations about practicing veterinary medicine, at least in America. Nobody's going to bother you for finding an abscess,
Yeah, right.
It's what it comes down to is being prudent about what the horse needs. Mm-hmm. I think it's putting the horse first and not being afraid to ask for help and not being able to collect additional resources when you need them. Yeah. Don't be a hero.
Now we'll veer over into territory that might be a little uncomfortable. Oh. And we've talked about it a bit over the past couple days. You're coming from a unique place in that in the farrier world, especially, it was a predominantly male career. And then now there are a lot of women that are getting into it, but there are still issues with, I guess you could say, the old guard with inappropriateness and even maybe stuff that people aren't even aware of that is making their female counterparts uncomfortable or...
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So, and we have the same problem in the veterinary industry. I mean, right now, the veterinary industry, I've looked out these stats recently for a talk I'm giving. The veterinary industry is now 80% of enrolled students are women. But it was a primarily male-dominated profession, so you have a lot of older men who are still kind of at the top of the field and a lot of younger women rising up. Mm-hmm. In the farrier world, the last statistic I found was from like 2014, I think, but it was about 6% of full-time farriers are women and about 10% of part-time farriers are women. So it's a way different. And it may have grown since then.
I would guess.
This was just the stat I could find for my talk in my brief Google search. That's why I was trying to find more information about it. I think it's hard because it's a little different in the sense that, like, if you have an assistant coming on board, you're going to be alone with them in the truck all day. So there's a lot of things to consider. If you have a wife or whatever, she may not like that very much. And I think that does put a lot of guys off from having female assistants. Mm-hmm. But then there's the side of it, too, where you have inappropriate conversation or maybe there are some unwanted advances from your employer. And that can be very difficult to navigate.
No kidding.
As women, like, we need to not be afraid to say, hey, this isn't okay. And you also need to be prepared to find another job.
Yeah. I think sometimes people feel that if they do speak out or leave that particular situation, that they won't find another one. I've heard that.
Yeah. And I mean, I've definitely been in the position where felt like I needed to say what was on my mind. Mm-hmm. And, I did.
Good for you.
And it worked out okay. It's a very challenging thing, and that's another thing. It's person by person, but don't settle for less. If you feel threatened by someone you're working with or for, you need to say something about it, and you need to really find something else. Mm-hmm. There are other opportunities out there, and you just need to start looking.
Yeah.
There's no sense in putting yourself in a situation where you're not comfortable just to prove a point.
Yeah, or advance your career.
Yeah, exactly. Or advance your career. And I'm sorry, but like, you're looking at all the safe sport stuff. And I'm not trying to label men as the predators here, but you're looking at all the safe sport stuff now. How many predatory horse trainers do we have out there that have been called out? Like, mm-hmm. But you also have young, ambitious women trying to advance their careers. So, it is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I think it's about putting yourself in a position that you're comfortable in. And if you're not comfortable, you need to step out of it.
Yeah. I think that even just more voices like yourself, if people hear that and know that there is, that is a route you took or that anybody.
I think sometimes just very calmly and politely telling someone. I mean, if you lose your marbles and get all psycho on somebody, that's not going to do anybody any good. Yeah. Because it just creates a scene. But sometimes just telling somebody, just straight up looking them in the eye and saying, you know what? You need to stop doing that. Yeah. This was my situation as a person went into complete denial and backpedaled
Yeah.
90 miles an hour. I let him have it. I was basically like, I know you didn't mean that, but he didn't try it again.
You're right. Yeah.
You know?
You stop that.
Yeah, you stop that nonsense. It's a very interesting position
Mm-hmm.
because you are alone with somebody all the time. You have to be responsible for yourself.
And there will always be other options.
You can't ask somebody to change themselves. I guess that's my point.
Yeah.
You can't ask this guy who clearly has a thing for you to stop having a thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to control the situation. And if you can't control somebody else, you need to control yourself.
By removing yourself from the situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that goes for all situations in life. You know?
Yeah.
You know, if it's not okay, get out.
Yeah.
Don't toe the line.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great advice. Now, where are you heading to next? So you've got your therapeutic endorsement
Or I'm working on it.
that you're working towards. After that, I know that every time you achieve something, you set another goal.
Yeah, because I have problems.
What do you think sparks that?
I think I told you I probably have attention deficit disorder, but yeah, I'm undiagnosed professionally anyway. I'm working my way through the Denois ISLP courses, so the International Society of Equine Locomotor Pathology. So it's all kind of advanced musculoskeletal ultrasound.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to be in a place where I can test for that in a couple of years. You know, that's another goal that's out there in the world.
Yep.
And then, yeah, we'll see. Thinking about having a crack at the AW at some point.
I figured you would say that.
I know. I'm like, don't want to talk about my goals on tape.
Oh, well, now you...
Life goals. All right, now I'm committed.
Yep.
You heard it first here.
Yeah. And now we're going to all
Yeah.
hold you to it.
Oh, yes, exactly. As I said, I like to just kind of go for the next thing. And exposing yourself to these things only makes you better.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone to plenty of these things and not done well. And then all of a sudden the lights come on and you start really doing well. And it's a process. And, you know, there's been several people out there that always say, like, it's not about the destination. It's about the journey and all that other stuff. But it really is. I mean,
It's easy to lose sight of that, though, at
Yeah.
times, right?
but I mean, all the amazing people you meet along the way and how much fun you have and drinking margaritas with a big Corona dumped upside down. Or whatever we were doing.
We'll have to put a link to that photo.
Oh, yeah. Just all the fun I've had just hanging out with people after contests and competitions and clinics and just all the amazing people I've met along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And just the situations you never thought you'd be in. And just some of the amazing stuff I have hanging on my wall that like famous people have made and like given to me. Like just because I met them randomly. You
Yep.
know? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's definitely just been a wild ride.
Now, in pursuing all of this, and because you keep setting more and more goals while still being a part of a very busy practice, have you ever experienced burnout?
Oh, sure.
And what do you do to thwart it? And what have you done to get yourself out of it?
I think having a lot of interests helps me, but honestly, like in the last couple of years, I've really learned that I need to go spend more time with my friends. I need to spend more time with my family. Obviously, like with all the intense goals I have in a very little amount of time, like I pack way too much in and I will run myself ragged.
Mm-hmm.
So when I really start to feel that, like I'm like, all right, I need to go to the beach or I need to go have a drink with my girlfriends or I really, this year is finally like the first year where I'm really taking more time for myself.
Good for you.
Yeah. No, a friend of mine in Australia was teasing me. He's like, when are you going to take a real holiday? And I'm like, what's that? I mean, when I'm off.
You're on one right
well,
here.
that's it. That's just it. I'm like, when I'm off, I go to like my ISLPs or I go blacksmithing or I go to like, well, last year I was like, I'm taking the weekend. I'm driving to Maryland for a certification. You know?
Yeah.
As fast as I can. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm really trying to take a lot more time for myself now and really have fun and not take things quite so seriously and realize that there's worlds outside of what I do and all my pursuits. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I have adorable little nieces and a nephew, 2 nephews actually. I love spending time with them and just playing with them and they're so cute. And I really enjoy exposing them to horses and exposing them to what I love.
Mm-hmm.
I have this great video of my nephew pounding on a rubber sneaker with a hammer. And he's like, I'm shoeing like Itsy Betsy. He has no idea. He's like, it's a shoe. You know? So like those people in my life have really, it's helped me a lot to be home, to be stateside, to really be with my family.
Mm-hmm.
Just helped me take it down a notch and realize that there's life outside of all of these things.
Yeah, it's hard to find that balance for sure.
Yeah.
And then they kind of bring you back to the reasons you're doing it all in the first place.
Exactly. I'm giving a talk to a pony club later in the year. And for me, it's just so fun to like share all of these things with them. It brings me back to when I was in 4-H. Like when I volunteer these types of things, like it's so much fun to just share that.
Yeah.
And you remember being that little girl and looking at the vet being like, oh my God, she's amazing. And you're like, oh no, I'm not, trust me. But, you know, just trying to tell these little girls and these little boys, like, just stick with it. Be too dumb to quit. Like, that's how I put it. Like, I'm just too stupid to quit. Be too dumb to quit. Find something and stick with it and don't give up. And believe in yourself because that's the hardest thing to do. And I really like sharing that with young people.
Yeah.
So
inspiring that next generation that are going to come up. And
yeah, people ask me how I got into horseshoeing, and I just have a series of poor life choices.
Maybe that's how we all got into
exactly.
horseshoeing.
Can't say veterinary medicine was any better. Oh, and I find myself treating a colic in the freezing cold at 2 a.m.
Do you question those choices?
I do. I wish I was shoeing full time.
Yeah. At least buy a warm forge.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, maybe the forge could double as your heating source on those calls.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Try not to light someone's barn on fire.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll move into the short answer questions.
Oh.
This portion of the podcast is called the Stratum Tectorium. These are the short answer, surface stuff questions, but it's okay if the guest wants to go deeper. Enjoy. Favorite book most gifted to others?
Oh. Sadly, it's a dictionary, an English-Spanish dictionary for horsemen's terms.
Oh, really?
I feel like I give them to a lot of people.
Really?
Yeah.
I might need a copy of that.
Yeah, I can sort that for you.
Okay.
I gave one to Chris. I've given them to some of my friends in Kentucky.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Incredible. Favorite brand of work boots?
Oh, that's a tough one. I like Red Wings. These are not holding up.
I'm currently staring at a boot that is missing most of its shoelaces because they've
burned
burnt
them
off.
I'm walking around with a flat tire for a few days. So. Yeah, anything without laces. Let's start with that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Favorite make of rasp?
Ooh, I've been using Save Edges for a long time.
Have you?
But I might be a purist. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Do you have a dream farrier rig?
Yes, I guess I do. Probably we were talking about like an 8-foot dually that I can put all of my vet and my farrier equipment into, because right now I feel like I'm working out of actually I get confused with the cafe truck. I have had landscapers walk up to me and ask for coffee. Yeah, it's a little 6.5-foot Stonewell, which I love it. It's great, but I need bigger. Yeah.
To bring all your toys with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have a favorite rounding hammer?
I've been using a 2.25 pound Jim Pour that I really like.
Okay. Favorite type of bar stock to work with?
3/4, 3/8.
Favorite pastime after work? More work.
Yeah. Reading about work or yeah.
Oh, I answered it for you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I like just going home and having a glass of wine and hanging out with my dog. Like
Yeah.
I love walking my dog. And
Next thing on your bucket list?
this endorsement,
Okay.
therapeutic endorsement.
Do you have a favorite brand of keg shoe?
I've been using the Kirkard S68s for a long time.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like I might change it up at some point.
What do you think you'd try?
Ooh. This is daring.
Yeah.
It's a bit racy of a question.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I don't know.
You're not sponsored by Kirkard, are you?
No. I don't know. Something with just a little more meat. I'll
Okay.
think about it.
Leather or synthetic pads?
This is definitely like depends. I guess leather generally. Yeah, generally leather.
Okay. That has been the unanimous answer, I think. Except for maybe one person.
Yeah.
Favorite type of horse to work on? Now, everybody says a nice, easy one.
That's what I was going to say. The one that stands. The one that stands good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like thoroughbreds. I really like thoroughbreds. And I like the crippled ones. You know, that tends to be my MO. Like, I really like crippled horses.
They keep you employed.
Exactly.
Now, I don't know if this would pertain to you. Well, I guess in a way it would. Ideal number of horses to shoe all around in one day.
Oh, I don't go for numbers. So, you know, like 4 or 5. Yeah.
That would be my answer.
Yeah. I'm not a hero.
No. Favorite anvil?
I have a JHM Journeyman 125 that I really like.
Favorite inspirational quote?
Ooh. Hang on, I'm going to get this up.
She went into her pocket. I thought,
I happen to like inspirational quotes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing.
I
have a favorite.
Very surprised by.
All right, this is a Jim Carrey quote, of all things. You can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well take a chance in doing what you love.
It's a good one.
Here's another one here. It's Lewis Carroll. Sometimes I've believed as many as 6 impossible things just before breakfast. And here's Oprah. Create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life because you become what you believe.
There you go.
I'm done.
Oh, okay. Almost everybody has one or a couple, so it's always fun to ask. Favorite breed of dog?
Blue Heeler.
I knew you were going to say that. App that has most improved your work life?
Photos.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Right. I think you've opened up photos for me about 13 times in this
We're not going to talk about what those photos are. You're not supposed to tell people about that, Brian.
Preferred social media platform?
Facebook. I took it off my phone, though.
So that you wouldn't...
So I wouldn't spend too much time on it.
Ah, that's actually a good idea. So just whenever you're at your...
I'll log in from my...
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. What do you use as your planner or agenda?
I have an old-fashioned handwritten book that I use for my shoeing clients, but I have someone that does the rest of my scheduling.
Right, yeah.
I have people.
There's somebody for that.
Yeah.
Favorite method of soothing aches and pains?
Wine.
That puts you in the same camp as Bodie and Craig Dranka. But not the wine, but alcohol.
Yeah.
Favorite brand of jeans?
Carhartts.
Favorite drink?
Wine. Red wine, to be exact.
Okay.
Boxed or bottled will do.
Not picky. Favorite genre of music?
Ooh, that's tough. I definitely listen to a lot of different things. I was on like a 50s kick for a while. Generally country, but like, I mean, I will go from like to classic rock to, you'll hear like AC/DC followed by like Jewel. If you listen to my playlist, it's completely schizophrenic.
Yeah, mine too. Do you work out?
Yes.
Is that a regular thing?
Yeah.
Like a morning?
I'm a CrossFitter.
Are you? Oh, you're one of those. Do you meditate?
No.
What would you have been if not a farrier/vet?
Supermodel.
Goes without saying.
Oh, there you go. But I like to eat too much, so I had to find a different line of work. But that was always my backup plan.
Well, thank you very much. That was all of it. So,
okay.
Thanks very much, Betsy.
Oh, God.
Appreciate it.
Oh, I hope that works out okay.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you. Before I go, I wanted to say a few words about an initiative started in my neck of the woods called Helping the Schoolies. Due to the restrictions imposed because of the COVID-19 pandemic, schooling barns throughout North America have been forced to close their doors to clients. This has meant a complete stop of income for businesses that already deal with extraordinarily high overhead costs. This has caused many challenges for the schooling barns and their staff to maintain the level of care necessary for the schoolies. A Facebook group called Helping the Schoolies was recently started in my area by some ambitious and caring individuals. It was started to raise awareness of the schoolies' plight, and now a GoFundMe page is also being created. We at the Mullins Farrier Podcast want to help, so we are offering sponsorship of a special Helping the Schoolies episode. For a minimum donation of $100, we will mention your name and business at the end of the episode. All of the proceeds generated will go to the GoFundMe page for the schoolies, along with my $500 donation to get the ball rolling. Without the schoolies, the foundation of our industry crumbles. Please help me in helping out those special horses and ponies that inspire lifelong journeys in the equine world. Information on how to donate can be found on the Mullins Farrier Facebook and Instagram pages, as well as on our website. The Helping the Schoolies group is also available. You just have to send a request to sign up, and it is a very informative site. Thank you very much for listening. Take care of yourselves and each other out there. We'll talk soon.